This story takes place during the hot summer of 2012 at my grandparents' farm. My grandparents were away one night, so I was alone. I was being paid to keep an eye on the farm for a couple of nights. I was watching TV in the living room one night when I noticed a strange noise coming from outside the farm field. I ignored it at first. I assumed it was a deer, but that was before I heard all the pigs squealing and grunting at the same time. Normally one pig would grunt at a time, but when every single pig begins squealing and grunting, something is wrong. To make all the pigs freak out like that, something or someone had to horrify them. I was the only one at the farm, so of course it was my job to see what was going on. So I went to the closet to put on a coat and go outside. But as I was about to leave, I heard a very high-pitched pig squeal. I stood there for a while, shaking in my shoes, convinced that something terrible was wrong with the pigs. I hurried upstairs to my grandfather's room, where he always kept a few guns under his bed. I went outside with his hunting rifle loaded, but the pigs wouldn't stop grunting and screaming. So I went into the barn to make sure nothing was out of the ordinary. All of the pigs remained, until I walked further down and noticed that one was missing. It made no sense. I went outside because I thought I heard a pig make a high-pitched squeal outside the barn. But as I walked towards the field, I swear I heard what sounded like people talking. This was finally enough to me. I let 2 rounds fly into the air. Everything fell silent, as well as the pigs, and I couldn't hear anything from the field. That is, until I heard footsteps in the distance. I wasn't sure if I had the guts to go inside the cornfield, but I had no choice. Farmers had guns for a reason, and I couldn't just hide inside a house with trespassers in the field. As I began to walk into the fields, I could hear many pairs of footsteps all around me. As I continued to walk deeper into the field, I became even more scared, and then I froze. A person dressed in black stood a few feet away from me on one of the rows of corn. I pointed my gun at him and told him to get out of my field. I wasn't lying. I was prepared to shoot, but he didn't move. So I fired another round into the air to scare him away, but he didn't move. Then he began walking towards me, with his arms slightly out, as if telling me to lower my weapon. I aimed my gun at him once more, yelling at him to leave. That's when I realized I was surrounded by people dressed in dark red clothing, along with at least 7 or 8 other people. That was only the people I could see. Who knows if there were more? And as the one guy got closer, I noticed that he, like the others, was wearing these strange masks. As I began to back up, the man stopped approaching me. For a brief moment, they were all silent. I can't put into words how terrified I was. I thought I was about to be killed when they all suddenly started chanting something. I couldn't figure it out. It sounded like another language, but the chant sounded almost like a song, and I began to wonder if they were about to perform some sort of satanic ritual on me. That's when I took my chance to sprint down a few rows of corn as fast as I could. When I ran out of breath, I came to a halt and fired 6 rounds in their direction. I heard footsteps and creaking wood coming from the opposite direction. I finally scared them away. I ran back in the direction of the farmhouse. I stopped and saw something on the ground. It was a pig's head in the center of a circle of candles. I wanted to jack. So I did, as soon as I got back to the farmhouse. I grabbed the house phone and dialed 911. To the best of my ability, I told the operator everything. She stated that an officer would arrive shortly. I called my parents after I got off the phone with the cops, explaining the situation and asking them to come pick me up. My dad promised to be there in an hour. I sat upstairs in my grandfather's room, weeping and shaking for what seemed like an eternity, until I noticed a police car outside. I hurried outside to meet the officer and had never felt happier in my life. I told the officer everything, and he searched the barn and a little bit of the cornfield before finding the pig's head. He then called up a search team, because this was now an active crime scene. When my parents arrived, I and the officer spoke with them about everything that had happened. Luckily, my parents drove me home. My grandparents, of course, took this very seriously and installed a high-tech security camera system throughout the farm. Who knows what kind of group that was, but they were clearly trying to perform some sort of animal sacrifice ritual or something. I just happened to be the unlucky one who was left home alone on the farm where they chose to do it. I'm Paul, and I'm 22 years old. I live on my family's farm. When my parents are away, I help out on the farm. My parents want me to take it over when they're too old to take care of it anymore. As I am the oldest of four, I don't really want to. I don't see myself as a farmer who spends his entire life on the land, especially after something strange happened just last summer. My parents were away for a week, so it was up to my three brothers and me to look after the property while they were gone. Except for this one night, there's not much around here. There's a lot of privacy, which is a little too much in my opinion. It started later in the night, as it was getting close to bedtime, and my brothers were studying online. My brother Eric takes summer courses, so he was in his room on his laptop doing work. John and I were just hanging out in the living room, watching some stupid show, and we all kind of wanted to get out of the farm lifestyle, especially me, since I'm the oldest and in my prime of my 20s. One dreaded part of farm life is dealing with predators. Not only do animals come to eat your crops, but so do people who come to steal from you. It hasn't happened to us very often, but it does happen. We keep a few guns in the house just for this purpose. Suddenly, something spooked our dog outside, and he went insane in the backyard. I went outside to the yard to see what he was barking at. He was looking in the direction of the crops, going crazy. I yelled at him to shut up, and he went quiet. I stepped right in front of the crops and listened. Inside the cornfield, I heard a strange laugh. It was definitely a man's laugh. This was the first time I had experienced a trespasser on the property without my dad here. I had to rush inside to fetch one of the guns before the dog began barking again. I told my brothers that someone was outside in the cornfield and that I needed to chase them away. They both told me that it was a bad idea to run into the cornfield in the dark. And they knocked some sense into me. I realized that they were right. I also realized how terrifying this would be, so instead, I went out back. I aimed the gun into the air and fired off a shot that echoed into the night. I was also on a power trip at the time and yelled as loudly as I could to get off our land. I felt that would have done the trick, and I went back inside. My brothers were laughing, which made me laugh as well. But our laughter didn't last long, because the dog started to behave crazier than ever before. I went back outside, ready to do it all over again. But my heart skipped a beat when I saw a big man standing in front of the cornfield. When he looked at me, I yelled, "Hey!" and he ran into the cornfield. I started running over and fired another shot into the air. Then I stopped. There was no way in hell I was going in there, so I went back inside the house. I told my brother someone was sneaking around in the cornfield, so what did we do? We called our dad, and he told me I had to be the man of the house and protect my brothers. He told me to fire another warning shot outside if whoever it was returned after this. We went to our separate rooms, one by one. I brought a gun into my room, just because we were all a little spooked by this. I had a window open and was lying in bed. Suddenly I heard a weird laugh from outside. I moved to the window and kept looking out to see someone walking slowly through the grass. Then he stopped and turned to look at my window, still laughing. This weirdo was obviously trying to mess with us and scare us, which was a very stupid idea. I already made it clear I had a gun. I ran to grab the gun off the bed and aimed it out the window. I shot at the grass a few feet away from him, purposely missing, of course. He ran out of view from my window towards the front of the house, and this time he didn't come back. He'd have to be a fool to come back. After that, I clearly explained why I fired the gun and told my brothers that he would not come back. We never found out who he was. But one thing's for certain, the farming life ain't for me.